Recording. Here we go. So again, welcome to this last session that we're having together, which is about recovering from your IC. That is, what does it look like when you do energy work to resolve interstitial cystitis? And I think that now that we're all kind of on the same page with respect to what the energy science is all about, how it moves toward understanding disease and the origins of disease, and what we can do in terms of nutrition, herbs, and that unusual concept that we've talked about called Agni. Now we can start using these principles that we've discussed in the previous sessions and bring them together in an understanding of what this energy science is all about. So in review, what we've said is that the energy science explanation of interstitial cystitis is that the hot and the mobile qualities become predominant in your physiology. And because of the hot and mobile qualities being dominant, they happen to localize in people with IC in the bladder or the urinary tract. And these hot and mobile qualities can, in some situations, also be linked to gut disorders. So the hot and mobile qualities produce GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, or hyperacidity syndrome, or irritable bowel syndrome with its associated intermittent diarrhea and constipation. Or these hot and mobile qualities can seek out joints and muscles and fascia, and in those situations fibromyalgia becomes the symptom of the day, so to speak. Or for those unfortunate enough to have these hot and mobile qualities link into their bladder, into their fascia, muscle, and joints, into their gut, and they can have all four of these complex labels of symptoms that produce the IC bladder pain syndrome. We discussed how the energy science nutrition and its many aspects can help improve the disease process of interstitial cystitis, because nutrition from an energy science approach reduces the hot and mobile qualities. And because of that, you stop putting into your body those qualities that can produce IC. And we also talked about the concepts of Agni, that is digestive strength, digestive power, and how it's so important to have a rich, strong digestive strength. Because if we don't, the other part of the puzzle is that ama, or undigested food, occurs in the microchyle, can be distributed to various parts of the body, and this ama then is a sticky, gooey substance that is present in the urinary tract, and it literally holds the qualities of the hot and mobile in the bladder. So if we have ama associated, and often almost invariably people have ama associated with these qualities, then they have the setup of repetitive symptoms over and over and over again. So we talked about how we can reduce the hot and mobile qualities and reduce or eliminate ama from the GI tract and from the urinary tract by using targeted herbal therapies, either used orally, vaginally, or even through the bladder, from the bladder side. And we talked about this role of toxicity and how ama can be actually the essence of toxicity. Toxicity is not just born out of the qualities, it's born out of ama itself. So now what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about how to reduce the loss of energy from the body. And based on what you now know, this will be very easy for you to understand. We also want to talk about how to build energy, because quite honestly, this is a totally misunderstood and totally relevant point and part of the picture of recovery from chronic disease. If we do not know how to build our energy back after we've been debilitated, we'll have a great deal of difficulty with managing and recovering from chronic diseases. And all chronic diseases are debilitating because they produce a loss of energy. We'll also talk about how to reduce ama. There are techniques to reduce ama, and very easy, simple things that you can do. And lastly, we'll talk about release, because it's a very, very important concept to understand as you go forward in recovering from IC. So I want to mention, first of all, this concept of the kitchen sink. That is to say, you've heard this phrase that I'll throw the kitchen sink at this disease. And so what we're talking about here is that anything that makes sense from an energy science view is fair game in terms of healing your disease. That there should be no limitation as to what you expect or want to use in terms of dealing with your disease. It's not, and this is very important because we get this from the matter science idea of disease. It's not just one thing that causes disease, and therefore it's not just one thing that heals disease. There have been multiple causes for this disease of IC, and therefore there can be multiple forms of treatment that work best. And if now you think back over what we've talked about, you can see why this makes so much sense. Now, with respect to energy, we're going to talk about chronic disease as if our car battery, the battery of our body, has been drained, and we need a jump start to get started. You know, if I leave my lights on, the battery is drained. So doing energy work is like getting a jump start and maintaining and improving the health of your energy body in order to continue to get healthier and healthier. So here are the common energy drainers. Mental turbulence is a common energy drainer. And we really don't appreciate how the mind plays such a role in our energy and how it drains our physiology of energy, because the mind is always like a hard drive that always has some applications running in the background. And so these applications running in the background keep, even though we don't hear it because they're visibly and auditorially not present for us, they don't come up for present understanding and awareness, but these constant background noises that occur in the physiology lead to turbulence in the physiology. And this mental turbulence leads to the unarguable expressions of impatience, anger, worry, fear, anxiety, loss of focus. all of these are expressions of mental turbulence. That's a major energy drainer for anybody in any walk of life. So there are also nutritional stressors, and we've talked about that. Poor food choices, poor Agni or poor digestion, poor food combining, snacking between meals. These are expressions of stressors in our physiology that then lead to energy drainage. Lack of exercise, or even the opposite, too much exercise, can lead to a loss of energy in the physiology. And then lack of adequate rest. People who have chronic disease, such as I see, really need to pay attention to getting adequate rest so that they're not burning the candle at both ends. Now, meditation is now kind of a buzzword these days, but it's not really understood as to why meditation is important. But now you know that if meditation can reduce mental turbulence, then it will reduce the energy drain and eliminate worries, anxiety, and fears. So meditation is a very important aspect of energy work. It's not really thought of as energy work. It has the connotation of being a spiritual practice. But in reality, meditation is really a health-promoting practice, and it really should be seen as that first and foremost before it's really a spiritual practice. Because if it's labeled just as a spiritual practice, then it loses the connotation of what it can do for your health. So there are two things that are needed in order to do a meditation practice. One, a place to sit, and secondly, the ability to close your eyes. If you can do these two things, you can meditate. And you can focus on the breath, watching the breath on inhalation, and repeating the word so on inhalation, and hum on exhalation. So on inhalation gives you the verbal cue of inhalation. The auditory cue of inhalation is so, and the auditory cue of exhalation is so hum, so hum, so hum. And with these two words, you actually literally create a mantra for yourself. And mantra means instrument of the mind. What you do is you give the mind something to chew on. It needs something to be actively involved with. So you give it so hum. And when you do that over and over again, the mind becomes settled. It becomes not so rambunctious and not so active. And when that occurs, voila, you start seeing less energy drainage. So begin 5 minutes in the morning and evening and gradually expand it to 20 minutes morning and evening. Bracketing your day's activities with meditation can significantly help you improve your chances of recovery from IC. I think journaling is really a good thing in energy work because, energy work is quite subtle. It's not something that grabs your attention the next day after you've started a meditation practice. So by being able to focus your attention on what things are working, how you're feeling, things occurring over, say, a week or two or a month, this kind of monitoring process can help you see how you're doing and how you're getting better. It helps you see how it feels when you have a healthier body. And it also helps you check in with your Agni. So getting better, as we said, in the energy science is a subtle process. It's not like having an appendectomy and immediately feeling better when you wake up from the anesthetic. So because this is such a subtle process, you need to have an ability to look for subtle signs. So what are subtle signs? Well, is your bowel activity getting better? Is constipation clearing? Is your diarrhea getting better? Are tongue changes changing for you so that you have less ama appearing on the tongue? Are you having less bladder or vaginal symptoms? Or are you having less flares? Are you having less digestive symptoms? Has your skin improved? Are you less depressed, less anxious, less fearful, and have less worries? And furthermore, are you showing or seeing improved mental clarity? Are you having less impatience, less reaction to people, circumstances, and things? Are you having better ability to focus? Is your mind more lucid and brighter? Do you have increased creativity, attention span, memory retrieval, and learning ability? Are you beginning to see things in a new light and have a greater perspective? Are you able to see synchronicities in your life where you see someone and the next day you see them again? Are you noticing those? Are you seeing and having those kinds of experiences? This is what it means to get better from an energy science perspective. Now, I also wanted to talk about how to create more energy. We've talked about how to get rid of the energy drainers, but how can we get more energy? How can we increase our breath capacity, also known in physiological circles as vital capacity, the ability to increase the capability of holding more energy in your physiology? Doing this kind of work is similar to changing the battery size from a 6 to a 12-volt battery. It's getting your body more capable of holding more energy and having greater improvement in terms of your resilience, your stamina, endurance, and reducing your chronic fatigue. This is a very important concept, totally misunderstood and not recognized in the West, but a powerful, I can tell you, a powerful technique to help you get healthier. You see, the real issue here is not only do you want to get rid of your IC, but you want to come out on the other side of this experience of IC as being healthier than you ever were before. That's really where you're going with this, where I would expect you to go with this kind of work. So breathing for release is stopping the drain of energy and creating more biological energy. So what we're really looking for is by creating more biological energy, is we stop the drainage of our energy by doing these various techniques and improve the digestion in our body by burning off ama. These breath techniques can burn off ama, and that's a very important aspect to this whole process of breathing technique. Reducing mental activity, as we saw with meditation, can stop the drain. Eating according to our nutrition can stop the drain. Avoiding incompatible food combinations stops the drain. And slowing down, just stopping the mobile quality, can be an important aspect in terms of stopping the drainage. So breath work can also do all of this. The two aspects that we're going to talk about, there are many different energy promoting breath techniques, these fall under the category of pranayama, and you may have heard about these techniques in yoga classes or yoga circles, but it's a very undefined study because everybody is focused on asana practice or postures in a yoga studio. But pranayama probably is much more powerful in terms of yoga practice than is simply doing asana practice. I'm not saying that asana practice isn't of help. I'm just saying that pranayama can be much more powerful for you, and you can do it on a regular basis at home. You don't have to go to a yoga studio for it. The first is alternate nostril breathing, and what this really does is slows the mental pace. And what's done is to take a deep breath in one nostril while closing off the other, and then changing the side of the breath and breathe out through the opposite nostril. Breathe in on that same side and breathe out on the opposite side. So it crosses over. You take in a breath on the right side, breathe out on the left, breathe in on the left, breathe out on the right. And this alternating technique of alternate nostril breathing has as much value as a meditation practice. So alternate nostril breathing can be really good for people who really struggle with meditation because their minds are so busy. As time goes by, meditation can be a real powerful process, but alternate nostril breathing can get you there. The second kind of breath is called Kapalabhati, or what I call KB breath. And Kapalabhati helps improve digestion of foods, but also helps improve digestion of thoughts. So sometimes we have thoughts that don't serve us very well, but we need to get rid of them. We need to digest them. We need to process them. And so using this kind of breath technique can help us digest those thoughts. It also improves biological energy, so we improve the storage of our battery. And this is described as forceful exhalation, passive inhalation. So you let all the breath out and then start forceful exhalation. Notice that I'm pushing the air out with my lower abdomen, but as I push the air out, passive inhalation occurs. So I'm never trying to catch my breath. I'm just allowing the breath to naturally flow into my lung fields. This is an extremely powerful technique to do, and you can do it anywhere, anytime. But doing it in the morning as an exercise regime can be extremely valuable to help improve your energy, improve the storage of your energy, as well as improving the biological energy stores. So the idea here is to keep what we have gained, and I think that this is there's a concern that sometimes, if I stop doing this kind of work for a period of time, I'll lose everything I've gained. I'll have to start all over. And the good news about this is that anything that you do with respect to energy work is very, very difficult to lose ground that you gain doing the work. So if you do this work with respect to nutrition and bucking up your Agni and doing all these various energy exercises that can help improve your energy battery, if you've done this work, you don't lose it. You almost, it's like starting from from where you left off if you get started. So never worry about, oh, I'm going to worry about taking a break, because you get back to your gains very quickly. You won't go back because, and furthermore, I actually believe that when you start feeling better, what will happen for you is you'll just not want to go back. You won't want to stop because you're feeling so much better. So, giving up refined sugar or carbonated drinks, it's going to be easy for you to do that as you do this work. I mean, some people have these food cravings, such as refined sugar or carbonated drinks, but in reality, after you've been doing this work for a while, these cravings will totally go away. I mean, you'll just say, oh, well, I used to like Coke a lot, but I just don't need that Pepsi anymore. And this will be what will happen because your body will start changing. When you start putting different input into your computer, you automatically get a different output. It's the old story, if I put junk in, I'll get junk out. But if I put quality work in, I'll get quality results out. So what to look forward to? Well, this is what happens now when you start seeing the Agni get stronger and the mind become quiet and the body become very responsive. What happened is you started on this course long ago and you were having these urinary tract infections. And then they said, oh, no, you have endometriosis. And then, no, I don't think so. But then you started going through the ceiling with respect to symptoms. And these symptoms started showing up as flares. And this is where you're at right now. Some people in our group are actually having flare all the time. I mean, they never get resolved. It just continues to stay above the ceiling. They have what we would call a maximum level of imbalance, and ama is holding them in this space. I'll write out the word ama because it's so important. It keeps you literally established. So it literally keeps you established in this area where you never have respite from symptoms. So now you start seeing things in a different way. Your Agni is stronger, and so the flare no longer is all the time, or is the flare occurring in spikes? But what happens is, in this healing mode, what happens is you start seeing things improve in terms of now having, instead of a continuous flare, you have maybe intermittent flares. And if you were just having intermittent flares, what now happens is you start seeing yourself as having maybe a flare, but the flares are less frequent and there's less length of time with respect to them. There's an increased space between flares. And then what happens is they get less in intensity, and then there comes a point in time where whoever had IC, you just don't have it anymore. And so that's the whole point of what happens when you start getting better. What you have to look forward to as you move ahead and leave IC behind. So this is a very important concept, and it's all about release. Remember, we were saying that what happens as you move along is that you start having symptoms, but they're less. But what happens to some people is that they freak out when they have a flare. You know, they've not had a flare for a period of time, and now they say, oh my God, you know, I'm having a flare, and then they lose all trust in any of the work that they've done, losing all confidence that things are getting better. And this is a very important concept to get in tune with, because if you're doing everything with respect to the energy science work that we've talked about till now, you can, even if you have a flare, you can be rest assured that you're getting better. I don't care whether you have many flares in this process. As long as you're staying true to the energy science work, rest assured that these symptoms that you're having are merely a release. These are merely releases of energy that are pent up in the physiology that need to get out, that need to leave through the bladder, the colon, the vagina, whatever. They are all moving in the direction of getting you better. So stick with it. Stay with it, because it's nothing, these symptoms, when you're doing this kind of work, are nothing but releases. Let me clear my pen here a minute. So what are releases? What happens when we get a release? And we've all experienced releases. I mean, this is not uncommon. These are things that you've had over and over again. We just don't see it in terms of an energy release. Therefore, we don't have any bucket to put it in. So, but a common cold, the release of the smooth, slimy qualities that occur with the common cold in the form of mucus, is nothing but a release of energy from the physiology after a pent-up winter of collection of these cold-like qualities. During the winter, we collect the qualities of cold and heavy, slow, dull, liquid, slimy, smooth, and all of these qualities then build up in the physiology. They have to get out. They cannot, and the body will not let them stay around. But the body is always seeking balance. It always wants to be in balance. So what does it do? It gives you a cold. Doctors now realize that the common cold is not associated with a virus. It's not associated with bacteria unless there's a bacterial overgrowth with release. But the bottom line is the common cold very rarely is associated with bacteria or virus. We want to make it an infection, but in reality, it's very hard to make it an infection. What is it? It's simply a release. Menses is a release. It's the release of the hot and mobile, liquid, and dense qualities from the body, from the female body, allowing you to get rid of these qualities that are in excess. And that's why women have a buildup of the hot quality just before menses, and their IC has a flare at the same time. The hot quality builds up. Menses is about ready to occur. What happens during menses? They get rid of the hot quality. What happens to their flare? It goes away. So menses is another example of release. Diarrhea can actually be a release of the mobile quality, so, and the hot quality as well. So if the gut is releasing this hot and mobile quality, it's all for the better. It's all for the better. But, you know, doing the energy work prevents you from putting in the hot and the mobile qualities in your physiology so that the diarrhea really becomes a physiological release for the better. If you keep on putting the hot and mobile qualities into your body all the time and then have diarrhea, well, the body is just trying to, again, regain balance. The body absolutely knows how to heal itself. We just have to give it the information and get out of the way. We have to get out of the way and allow the body to heal. If you get a cut on your finger, the body naturally knows how to heal. You don't have to sit and stare at the finger and hoping that it heals. You have the confidence and knowledge that the body will do its job to heal. The thing is that we have to understand how to keep or stop the imbalances from occurring on a regular basis so that we can get out of the way. Lastly, I love this diagram because I think it says so much about the whole concept of release during meditation. Here you can see our friend who happens to be in an outline, and here's his silhouette, but this fella happens to be meditating, and you see that his body happens to be like a 4th of July sparkler, right? And what's happening during this time is that he's merely releasing all this pent-up energy that's just bouncing off of him. So what meditation does is it allows us to release all this pent-up energy. Another release that's commonly seen is dream state. Dreams are nothing but the release of emotional stresses in our physiology that we can't necessarily get rid of any other way. So, like our friend here who's in meditation and releasing all of this pent-up energy, the same thing happens to us whether we're doing pranayama, whether we're having diarrhea, whether we're having menses, whether we're having a common cold. This is all about release. And once we release and get back to a state of balance, then we're healed. We have done our job. We have finished the task. And now we're able to move on to bigger and greater things. Kitchari is a very easy food to digest. They're tiny. It's made up of tiny beans called split mung dal with basmati rice, vegetables, and ghee with spices. It's excellent for cleansing. It's excellent for clearing ama. It's very simple to prepare, and the best thing is it takes little energy to digest it. Therefore, it's easy to absorb and assimilate, and makes it an excellent food to use on a regular basis when you're recovering from IC. Anti-inflammatory herbs is what we have talked about in the past. Aloe vera gel balances all tissues and brings strength to the tissues. Colostrum, as we've talked about at first when we were talking about this in the early part of the webinar, is all about building digestive strength. Marshmallow root, which some people have used, also builds vata energy. It helps in debilitated conditions, and actually many people, I would say probably 80 to 90% of people who work in the IC community are actually quite debilitated and very weak, even though they're A, able to communicate, B, go to work, C, able to digest meals, and D, participate in threads on various blog sites. They're really quite debilitated. And so debilitation does not necessarily mean that you can't function, that you can't do your day-to-day work, but from an energy perspective, you're very weak. Now, quercetin and bromelain have been thought and talked about in IC circles, and I think that they're really a good products to use because they are anti-inflammatory. I don't think that they match what aloe vera or colostrum can do, because aloe vera and colostrum both work on the GI tract as well. And aloe vera is an extremely valuable herb because it's what is called a ricin in the industry. And ricin is extremely valuable in terms of rebuilding the bodily tissues. But having said that, quercetin and bromelain certainly have a place as anti-inflammatories. Now, targeted herbal therapy we've touched on in the past. I think it can be extremely valuable in terms of using the use of pelvic herbs locally. These targeted herbal therapies can be self-administered either in the vagina or in the bladder, or even through the rectum, applying these herbs to the rectal mucosa, because that can incredibly improve the health of the entire pelvis. We also talked about Shatavari vaginal tampon and how that can be very helpful in terms of improving the release of these pent-up energies from the pelvis. Let's see. Okay. So, what to do? What should we do with this work? Well, the first thing is to make it a priority. I think that that's the first thing we need to really focus in, is realize that if we want to get started with doing this work, we need to make it like I think about it all the time. It's not like, I can go to work and do my work and focus my attention on the work. That's important. Somebody's paying me for that. But the key here is that at all of the times you make this energy work a priority. You don't let it sit in the back seat. You don't say, oh, well, tonight I won't think about it. I have to take care of whoever. It needs to be priority. And when you make this a priority, what you're actually asking is that everyone in your sphere of influence, everyone around you, your spouse, your significant other, etc., that they are as well involved with you. I can't emphasize this enough, because if people are not going to be on board with you with respect to this work, it's going to be very difficult for you to maintain this kind of healing. So one of the things that's important is to have everybody around you on board. The second thing is to start changing how you see disease. Now, one of the things that you commonly see is distressed people on these websites and blogs and threads talking about how their disease has now become their life. And it's clear, it's obvious why that would occur. These symptoms are so debilitating. They are so screaming at you that all of a sudden you see IC as being your life. And so what I'm suggesting here is that we now start taking a different look at ourselves, not from the perspective of the disease being us, but that we have this disease called IC, but it doesn't control our life. It doesn't consume us. That we now start realizing that through this work that we've talked about over the last 5 weeks, that through this work I can have a different life, and I will have a different life. But that means that we have to change the way we see IC and our relationship to it. I hope that makes sense, because it's a very important concept from what our discussion has now just been about. Does that make sense? Can people raise their hand if they see that as a great. Thank you very much. So the next thing to do is start eating. Try not to snack, and try eating your biggest meal at noon. Try not to overeat. What our little cartoon says is that just try to eat to a 6 on the gas gauge. Don't try to fill up the tank. A 10 on the gas gauge means that you're so stuffed it's like a holiday dinner. And 1 is like no American has ever felt. I mean, it's like total starvation. So try to aim for about a 6 on the gas gauge. Meditate morning and evening, and use the nutritional format at foodseal.com or at icdiet.com, and avoid these incompatible food combinations. I cannot emphasize enough how these incompatible food combinations can totally derail you, because they can really literally produce a flare. You can be doing everything right from a nutritional standpoint, and if these incompatible food combinations are not watched, they can literally produce flares, because they produce the hot and mobile qualities. The second thing is treat your acute flares with emergency kits that we talked about in the Module 3 or Session 3. Exercise in moderation, because moderate exercise can improve Agni. Now, having said that, I can tell you this, that you don't need an exercise program if you do these breathing techniques that I just talked about. KB breathing can literally heat you up so much that you feel like you've run for 5 minutes, because they are so invigorating to the physiology. Some of our friends happen to live in hot places like Florida, the Southwest, and sometimes these climates really can heat us up. So as the title of this whole course is called Cooling Off Your IC, means keeping cool. The other thing, as I mentioned earlier, is that interstitial cystitis is a chronic disease is really an energy drain. I don't think there's anybody in the group who hasn't experienced the fact that they're just fatigued. And it's because chronic pain is fatiguing, let's face it. So take care of yourself. Give your body plenty of rest when you're recovering from IC. And lastly, as I said earlier, try to do these energizing breath techniques. So in summary, what we said is, how can we reduce the loss of our energy? What can we do to reduce the energy drain from our body? And then second of all, and as important, is how can we build our energy back up? How can we go from a 6-volt battery to a 12-volt battery? Next, how can we reduce AMA? What are the techniques that we can do besides increasing Agni? What targeted herbal therapies can we do to help reduce AMA? And lastly, and probably I think the most important aspect to our session today, is understanding release. If there's nothing that you take away from this session with, is understand this concept of release, because as you do this energy work, no matter whether you have a flare or not, it doesn't make any difference, because you, in that flare, are releasing. You're releasing energy that's been pent up in the physiology, and when you release, you're getting better for it. Well, so our homework this week, well, it works when you work it, so work the program. And celebrate on the IC page, or on our Facebook page. You know, congratulate yourself, congratulate one another for doing this work. I can't tell you how proud I am of all of you for being able to stick with this for 5 weeks and do this amazing, awesome job of learning this. This is not, I can tell you, I've seen patients in the office over the years, this is not easy work. So congratulate yourself for doing this work and for staying with it and continuing on. And then I'll continue to check in on the Facebook page to support each and every one of you as you move along with this material. I mean, one of the things that's very important is not to feel alone, not to feel as if you're the Lone Ranger stuck out in the middle of nowhere with no one to talk to about this, because it's very important to be able to talk with people who are on the same journey. I mean, if you talk to somebody on one of these threads and you tell them that, you know, you're doing some breathing technique to improve your energy, they're going to say, what? What? What are you talking about? So, you know, you don't have a big group to discuss things with that you now know about and you know will work. So when you have this kind of understanding and this kind of experience, the sky is the limit for you. And so the key is just really work toward moving along with this material and supporting one another. I also wanted to support you as well with a free consult. If you want to apply this and you want help in this kind of work, and you want to have a grasp of how this new alternative can be used in your own individual life, you know, we all start at different levels. Some of us are on the 15th floor. Some of us are in the basement. Some of us happen to be on level 2. But, you know, wherever we start, it's all the journey upward, and it'll all take us upward if we just do the work. So applying this information is a next step. So getting a perspective of where you can take this information and use it wherever you are in your journey is what this whole free consult is all about. I've had some questions that have come up, and if you guys want to start thinking about questions that you want to ask, feel free to chat them out or put them out in the control panel. But as you do that, I'll talk a little bit about various things that have come up. This issue of yogurt. Yogurt is a powerful healing food. It's essentially mother's milk, and you know that mother's milk is completely self-reliant. We can get all of our nutrition from mother's milk. It's a complete meal. It has all 6 tastes, and because of that, milk is an expression of complete nutrition. But milk is difficult to digest. It's one of the largest molecules that we digest in our diet. And because of that, it's gotten a really bum rap. It's, you know, not good for you, or food allergies and all the other things. And we now know that people with poor Agni, poor digestive strength, can't digest very well. Therefore, they label themselves as lactose intolerant, or better yet, their doctor does. So yogurt is pre-digested, and that's one of the aspects that's very important. It's pre-digested. But one of the things that happens is that it has a little bit of a sour characteristic to it if it's store-bought. It's, as a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say any store-bought yogurt is too sour. And what do we know about sour? It carries the hot quality. What's that going to do to your IC? It'll cause you flares. So store-bought yogurt is not good. But fresh homemade yogurt, as we said, is pre-digested, and due to the heat in its preparation, it has these molecules that are difficult to digest broken down. But the other characteristic that's so important is the probiotic component. We all know that yogurt has a lot of bacteria with it. So all of these bacteria are good guys. They go, when we ingest them, they populate our GI tract. They force the bad guys out. What do the bad guys do? They produce gas. They produce bloating. They produce odorous flatulence. All of these are characteristics of the bad guys in our GI tract. So when we and these bad guys also include Candida. So you hear about Candida overgrowth, yeast overgrowth. It's all because the bowel flora is sick. So the idea behind having healthy probiotic activity in your gut helps you improve digestive fire, Agni. Probiotic is an aspect of digestive fire. So when you use and consume yogurt, it helps improve digestive fire. There's also very important materials now coming out, research coming out in the last 10 years saying that as you change the bacterial flora of the gut, you can literally start improving imbalances, such as those imbalances that lead to worry, anxiety, fear, OCD tendencies, etc., etc., etc. So I can't emphasize too much to you the importance of the probiotic aspect of yogurt. Now, you should use it about 3 times max per week. It should always be fresh homemade, and always use it with sucanat or turbinado. Why? Because you want to balance out with the sweet taste the sour taste, which is also present in small amounts in even fresh homemade yogurt. So the important thing is get yourself a yogurt maker and start working with it. Lastly, add ghee if you're having diarrhea to this formula. Never, ever, ever, ever use fruit with yogurt. Never. It's a terrible food combination. Now, we've talked about ghee intermittently, and some people have asked, what is this deal about ghee? And ghee, in essence, is the oily essence of unsalted butter. Therefore, it is not classified as a dairy product, but as a cooking oil, like olive or sesame oil. It has the qualities of Agni, which makes it a powerful thing to use in your diet all the time. It improves Agni because of its qualities. So it is great deal. Now, if people are of kapha constitution, none of the people on this call or in this webinar series have kapha constitution, but they should limit their intake of ghee to 1 to 2 tablespoons a day. Otherwise, go at it. All of you can use ghee liberally. You can either buy it in health food stores or you can make it. And it's better because I believe that when you participate in your health, when you participate in your cooking in the kitchen for your health, there's boundless benefits. There's endless benefits because you are cooking for your health. And doesn't that make sense? I think it really shows how when you harvest your herbs, when you cook your herbs, when you use the herbs for your own healing, everything gets better. So the directions for the ghee preparation is in the Foods Heal book. You can download this as a Kindle version for $3, and it will also be in the new book coming out called The IC Bladder Pain Syndrome. Now, another question that has come up is, why are flares different? Some people have flares that seem to have more of the hot quality. Some seem to have more of the mobile quality. That is, they don't have so much burning, but they're just frequent and urgent, just like the overactive bladder syndrome that we talked about in session 1. Some have absolutely no vaginal symptoms. It's not a problem for them. And then others are just totally incapacitated with the symptom complex. Some resolve spontaneously, while others, they have it chronically have IC chronically for years and years and years. And the explanation for the difference in the way these flares are different is because of our degrees of proportion of the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha energy patterns in the physiology. If we happen to be Pitta Vata or Vata Pitta and strong and have a lot of the Vata quality, then we're going to have a lot of the mobile quality if we're Vatas. But if we happen to have more of the Pitta constitutional makeup, have red hair, fiery temper, impatient, etc., then we'll have more of the hot quality. So therefore, Pittas tend to have more of the hot quality when they are having their symptom complex. And then, of course, Kaphas tend to have more of the, their flares totally look different than Vata Pittas, and they tend to have more of the difficulty with the mobile quality than the hot quality. And then, of course, there's this last factor of ama, whether this condition is associated with or without ama. If it's associated with ama, then these qualities of ama will keep it stuck in the physiology. It will keep it stuck in the bladder much longer than if it's not associated with ama or very little ama. So there are proportions of Vata and Pitta that are different for any point in time in the acute flare. And this is something to keep in mind and understand for yourself. So let's just take a look here and see if anybody has any questions. Let's see here. Okay, so anybody have anything to say? Okay, Amy, let me just unmute you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Well, thanks.
Oh, okay. I didn't know I asked a question, but I do have a question.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
You perceived I had a question. You're really out there, Doctor.
Wow.
Anyway, I wanted to ask, I've been doing better, but on all aspects with energy and digestion and whatnot, but then you're right. I have like a really bad day today. I've been in bed most of the day, with the burning and all that kind of stuff. And, it's so important. I think that is so important when you're starting to feel a little bit better and then you have a really bad day. You do tend to get like, oh, my God, you get freaked out. You go, oh, my God, I'm really not getting better.
Totally.
Or I'm not going the right direction. And it's so important. I think this whole experience has been such an education to me because I am an impatient person. I am.
No, not you.
No, I'm like make it happen girl, go getter thing. And I think it's so important to be so patient with this healing process and go, okay, it's okay, I'm having a bad day.
Right.
You know, it's okay, like, that I'm burning and it's uncomfortable and, you know, all that.
It's a great insight for you because basically, you know, part of the process of having IC from a mental standpoint is to be impatient. That's just part, it goes with the territory, so to speak. And so when we become impatient, forgive ourselves because it's part of the process of the imbalance of the mobile and hot qualities that happen to be in your pelvis happen to also be in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have the impatience, it's part of the territory. The other aspect to this is that the worry and anxiety is part of the mobile quality that is being expressed in the mind. So when we happen to have worry and anxiety because we happen to have a bad day like you're having right today, and you're having to lay in bed because you're in so much pain, well, it's part of the territory that you would be worried and anxious and wondering whether you are on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens for many people is they do things that are correct, but because they have another flare, they say, oh no, I don't know whether this is the right thing. And then they start sectoring themselves off, and before you know it, they have painted themselves into what I call the nutritional corner. They can't eat anything anymore because they're so worried that it's going to produce a flare for them. But the worry and the anxiety is part of the mobile quality. It goes with the territory.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it's not tempting me to change my eating because I'm really disciplined on that. But it's more kind of understanding that, you know, this process, you're not going to get out of it that easily. You're going to have to go through the whole process. It's not an upward healing. Is not just this straight up path. It isn't at all. It's like this. You go through. You have a good day. You have more good days than you did, and then you have bad days. And you know. And I'm also getting bladder installations too. You know, at the the regular heparin stuff too.
Right.
You know, I think after this experience, I really believe in integrative healing. I really do. I don't think you can really put your finger on any one thing. It's always this process of a lot of things. So anyway, I guess it's just like the rest of us. We just really need to encourage ourselves.
Right.
And go, you know, it's okay that, you know, because I remember I asked you that question about the 2-month mark. You know, I asked you that question that, you know, you said 2 months for every year, and I've had IC actually for about, at least knowing I had it for about 13 years, but I've only been in the really bad flare, well, it's not only, but like, you know, going into 8 months.
Right.
So
now you have a measurement stick, and now you've got 26 months or 2 years. So you can look forward to the fact that over 2 years, you'll gradually start getting better and better and better and better. But and you may surprise yourself. What you may find, Amy, is that what occurs for you is that that maybe it'll only take you 18 months of this kind of work. But let me tell you the positive side of this journey is that when you emerge on the other side, when you get to the other side of the river, you will have better health and better resilience and better energy than you have ever dreamed of. Now that is a packet.
Yeah.
So, you know, we get these diseases any disease. We get disease in order to become healthier than we were when we started. And that's the value of going through this journey. So, you know, in reality, I kind of look at IC as it's a blessing in a way, because in the end, what you get after you've gone through this journey is something that you never have ever conceived that you could have. You will be healthier than you ever have been in your life.
That's good. That's good. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, and we haven't talked about this, is when we have other kind of cholera things. I happen to have herpes, okay, genital herpes.
Yeah.
And when this flare started, it was in conjunction with having a bad herpes thing, and some of the doctors thought maybe it was neuropathic type of pain that was damaged, you know, tissue or whatever, and that seems to be getting better. But you know, I do manage it a lot with lysine. You know, lysine helps me a lot. And when they talk about, what is that, arginine? What is that amino acid? Arginine, yeah. I've always felt like that really exacerbates herpes.
Yes.
And I see it in these bladder supplements and stuff, and I'm tempted to do it, but I go, oh my God, because they were real. I used to eat a lot of peanut butter. And boy, did that take me over the top with herpes. It really did. You know,
each one of the 20 amino acids has an associated quality. So each it's quite amazing that each of the amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, are associated with various qualities. And it's a powerful concept, because the body is built on the qualities, right? And so the qualities end up becoming the energetic expressions of amino acids. So I love the fact that when there can be a correlation between the matter and the energy science, you know that the correlation is totally speaking the truth with respect to what we understand about the body and its healing.
So what does that mean in terms, I'm a little confused. So in terms of the amino acids in relationship to, like, you know, to a particular condition, like let's say herpes, you know.
Yeah. So you were talking about, I think, was it asparagine?
Lysine.
No, the other that caused a flare.
How do you say it?
Arginine.
Arginine tends to, I don't know, it seems to be when that's out of balance in your body with herpes, it seems to increase the viral activity or something of it.
So arginine represents the light quality. So the light and mobile qualities go together. As a matter of fact, the hot and light qualities also go together. So when you take arginine, which causes an increase in the light quality, you increase the hot and mobile qualities in the body, and those stimulate the herpetic changes. Now, the other side of that is leucine, right?
Lysine.
Is it lysine or leucine?
Well, I don't know. I call it lysine.
Well, it's actually leucine.
Okay.
Leucine.
I have lysin.
So we're not talking about then a...
It is an amino acid, though.
Okay, so then I'm looking at the list of...
It's called L-lysine.
There it is. Lysine is stira, which is...
They say it's for healthy immune function.
Yes. And lysine happens to be the static quality. So when you take lysine, you're actually taking the stable or static quality. Now the static quality is in contrast to the mobile quality.
Oh, okay.
So that when you take lysine, it stabilizes the mobile quality. And therefore, all those things associated with the stable quality, hard, steady, stable, all of these adjectives all revolve around the stable quality or static quality, which then improves your herpetic eruptions.
Yeah, it probably suppresses it.
Yes. It doesn't get rid of the problem is that it will not get rid of all the qualities that are in the pelvis. It doesn't. It's like a Band-Aid.
Yeah. It's just like controlling a chronic deal. That's what it is.
That's it.
Anyway, well, thank you.
All of the matter science techniques, because they don't understand the origin of disease from an energy science perspective, are nothing but Band-Aids. You will never be able to deal with IC from a molecular standpoint. So, okay.
Thank you.
You betcha. Any other questions? Okay, well, that's a wrap, you guys. Thanks everyone so much for making this a great learning experience. No matter how much or how little you participated, it made it. And it's been a great experience for me as well as I hope for you all. And just the fact that you were here improves your odds in helping yourself become freed from the shackles of this, quote, disease that seems to be treatable but not curable. I can tell you, doing this work, you can cure this disease. So, all my best, and good luck to you all, and hope to see you on the Facebook page. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh. Jean.
Yes.
Do you have a question?
I don't have a question. I put a little blog on for you to read.
Oh. Okay, let's see. Under questions?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, here you go.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and thank you.
Yeah, very good. Take care, Jean. Best of luck. We'll be talking on the Facebook page. Okay?
Okay.
Take care.
You too. Thanks a ton.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.